collective attitude of white people in this country, you can't approach it on an individual basis. And this is where whites make their mistakes today. You should ask the Negroes who are being bitten by dogs after professing love for white people. If you notice, they accuse Mr. Muhammad of teaching hate. Well, Martin Luther King teaches Negroes to love all white people, no matter what they do to you, and the same whites whom he teaches Negroes to love sick dogs on him, sick dogs on their children, dogs on their women, and dogs on their babies. So I think it's very hypocritical on the part of whites to accuse Mr. Muhammad of a hate teacher because he says separation, and then sick dogs on Martin Luther King, who is teaching integration. It means that no matter what the Negro does, he is not going to get along with white. So I think that Mr. Muhammad's whole philosophy is more intelligent than Mr. King's. Well, as Muslims, we judge a man according to his behavior, according to his conscientious behavior. And you'll find that all of the injustices that black people are crying out against in this country are being inflicted upon them by whites. It is the whites who are depriving our people of civil rights. It is whites who are depriving our people of implementing what the Supreme Court decision said should be implemented. Wherever black people turn, they are facing the hostility of whites, so that when you get the collective pulse beat of Negroes in this country, you'll get a truer picture of how our people think. You can't go up to an individual and ask him what does he think. How do all of you think who are catching hell collectively at the hands of white people collectively? Our religion teaches us that there is but one God, the creator of the universe.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nub. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs.
All right. We back at it. It's Thursday. This is the Thursday edition of the No PC show. I'm going to try to make it through. My sciatic nerve is kicking my tail. But, you know, we got to be dedicated to what we're doing here, or what we're trying to do here. Tonight's show is called Trump the Savior. You got Donald Trump out here talking about how he gonna come to Chicago or send the feds into Chicago and save us poor blacks. And he don't even know what he's saving us from. I mean, I'm sure everybody saw his speeches during the election, or whatever you want to call it, the farce election. For those that didn't see, I don't want to assume that everybody saw it, so here we go.
And then you look at Chicago. What's going on in Chicago? I said the other day, what the hell is going on?
Democrats.
A lot of truth to it.
Mr. Trump, let's talk about many of the things that have happened this week. Chicago, last night you tweeted out the murder rate in Chicago, saying, if Chicago doesn't fix the horrible carnage going on, I will send in the feds. Right. You will send in the feds. What do you mean by that?
Carnage. You know, in my speech, I got tremendous from certain people carnage. It's horrible carnage. Afghanistan is not like what's happening in Chicago. People are being shot left and right. Thousands of people over a short period of time. This year, which has just started, is worse than last year, which was a catastrophe. They're not doing the job. Now, if they want help, I would love to help them. I will send in what we have to send in. Maybe they're not going to have to be so politically correct. Maybe they're being overly political correct. Maybe there's something going on. But you can't have those killings going on in Chicago. Chicago is like a war zone. Chicago is worse than some of the people that you report and some of the places that you report about every night.
So I will
in the Middle East.
You mentioned federal assistance. There's federal assistance and then there's sending in the feds. I'm just curious, will you take action on your own?
I want them to fix the problem. You can't have thousands of people being shot in a city, in a country that I happen to be president of. Maybe it's okay if somebody else is president. I want them to fix the problem.
Okay. In some ways, he's on target, but in a lot of ways, he's off target. And we're gonna have a real frank discussion tonight, and may hurt some people's feelings. Donald Trump has no idea. How are you fixing the problem? And one of your top supporters is the National Rifle Association. When a lot of the companies, the big billionaires that you're bringing in, are supporters of the prison complex, where your platform is law and order, bring back stop and frisk. The condition is the way the condition is because America made it that way. It's not just in Chicago. You think it's a coincidence that all throughout the United States of America and almost every black neighborhood in America that shooting and killing and drugs is going on? Strange, all across America, whites ain't killing and shooting. Or at least they don't show it on TV if they is. I know they're getting high. I know they're doing drugs. I know they do it a different way. But let's highlight the black man and his problem and how we're going to solve his problem when we are the problem. Poverty is an economic situation with social ramifications. When you stack poverty on top of poverty, you've just created crime. When the government decided to steal resources, let's go even further back than that, because I don't want any of our good white folks to have an out. And this is every show I'm going to kind of throw it back to a little reparations piece. Because the only thing a person like Trump or the American government can do is give back the resources that they stole. When I grew up, there were community centers and all types of help programs, Job Corps and all that. It seems like a lot of that funding dried up. You got Rahm Emanuel closed 50 schools in Chicago. Oh, you can go over here, you can go over here, you can go over here. Not taking into account gang situations. Now, gangs shouldn't be going on, but the reality is gangs do go on, drug wars do go on, and now you're forcing parents to cross over here. Might have been nice and equal if you had investigated the school. A lot of the schools that some of the kids were going to were better than the schools that they now have to go to. A lot of programs that existed in certain schools didn't exist in the new schools. But they don't tell you that. You got all these politicians playing with the kids in the neighborhood playing the numbers game. We're saving $100 million according to Rahm by closing these 50 schools. But then you got the governor promising $215 million and then not delivering the $215 million. Why aren't teachers valued more? See, it's all a system. You live in a poor neighborhood, meaning you're going to have poor schools or underfunded schools. But don't worry about that. They're all going to be underfunded because Trump's nominee for Secretary of Education, DeVos, hey, she's been approved. And she basically sat up there and said she wants to defund schools. And I understand that doesn't only mean our public schools. That means special needs and other programs fall underneath there too. But all you Trump supporters, he's the savior. Oh, look how much my stock is going up now. Okay, cool. He's putting back in place the same rules that got us in trouble in 2007 when the market crashed. But run wild. Money is the only God we need to understand, according to Trump. He still thinks Frederick Douglass is alive. This man's hilarious, and he wants to bring in the feds. So let's get an understanding of what that means. When we institute martial law, that's martial law for everybody. But the problem with what he's doing is saying that we bring them in, who you looking for? How do you know who's who? Let's imprison everybody. Excuse me. Let's imprison everybody on the west and the south side. Everybody else is free. You don't know who the drug dealers are. The situation has to be handled by us. When I talk about the Village Project, that's about us taking control of our own communities, rebuilding our communities, doing the same things, being more concerned about our stuff than everybody else's stuff. Let me share something with you in life. A lot of other groups don't worry about race. You know why? Because they're making money. A lot of white folks don't sit around and waste their time thinking about race. It's a fact. They only think about it when you force them to talk about it. Otherwise, they're going off to their careers in all these corporate offices. I've been in corporate America for over 20 years. And I can sit and look at buildings being built. I'm in meetings all the time. I consciously count the black people in every meeting. The representation of blacks in corporate America is dismal. Just like how many black corporations in America is dismal. If there's about 34,000 corporations, 75 of them are black. That's how far ahead they are. You're sitting here worried about not getting shot. They're sitting around making money, building infrastructure. That's why so many black people aren't concerned with us coming together and trying to do something, because they're looking at the mountain. They're saying, how can we compete with that? They got everything and they make the rules. So how do we compete? Good question. Is Trump, all these people want to run out and meet with Trump? Oh, he can help us. Trump is not trying to help you. Trump is trying to help himself. He's trying to say in his political speech, see, I did help the blacks, and I did this for America, and everybody's making money. I really didn't help the blacks. I just said I helped the blacks. But this is the game. A lot of them, and they act like they don't see it, and maybe they don't see it. There's a lot of them feel like, hey, if you haven't been successful in the last 50 years, it's not our fault, it's your fault. Basically saying, we didn't stop fucking with you on that level that we used to. And you should have been successful by now. We've given you an opportunity to incur debt just like us, to live where you wanted to live for the most part just like us, to build communities if you wanted to build communities. Why are you trying to move into our communities? You got good. Wait a minute, no you don't. Because now, gentrification across America, and I hope some of you guys go back and just go through a lot, because I'm not going to do shows on stuff we've already done shows on, and I did one on the gentrification of America, it was called. And we talked about how they slowly are moving blacks out across the country, not just here in Chicago, in New York and other places. And places that used to be predominantly black, slowly changing over. Oh, the neighborhood is better. Can you afford to move back? We got Mariano's here now. We got the Whole Foods. Look at this. We got lights on the streets. You know, we don't have all these tall structures with tons of poor people. We've got communities with 75% working people, and that 20% of Chicago housing that we have to have. So we're going to meet that quota, because after all, we stole all the money in the first place that was supposed to be for blighted areas back in the day. And we took that money and we built up the north sides of Chicago, and we built up the downtown district. And you blacks didn't know about it, so you didn't complain about it. So again, we screwed you. But now we're going to act like we're giving you something. We're giving you an opportunity now to get a job. I want people to understand the difference between a job and a career. Careers are full of opportunities. We're still marching, talking about jobs. We're talking about jobs we've been marching for since the 50s and 60s. So if we've been marching since the 50s and 60s, talking about the same thing, don't you think it's time to change? Don't you think it's time to stop marching? Don't you think it's time to, instead of running to meet with Trump, hey, let's run to meet with each other? It's a wild concept. Let's meet with each other and decide what we want. It's only one thing I want. That's reparations. And you can give it to us in the form of education. You ain't got to put no money in our hands. I'll be generous. 150 years. Let's just take the whole Jim Crow era and say, pay us for all that bull crap you did to try to keep us from making it. And for the people that did make it, the 25% of us that do make it, unemployment is high in a lot of black communities. 24, 30, 35%, which is staggering. And those that are employed are mostly women. 65% of the households are headed by women, which brings us full circle to what the problem is. 65% of the prison population is black men. See how that correlates? There's no structure, but that was the same thing that was put in place. We're going to take these women, we're going to give them apartments, but no man can be in these apartments. That's the systematic destruction of who we were. We know this black man doesn't want to be a part of our system. We totally don't trust him, don't like him, because we figure he wants to get even one day. It's evilness to its highest level, and it's a shame people don't want to call it out. We had a black president for 8 years. He didn't want to call it out. I know he was hired to perform America's duties, not the black person's duty. But I would have loved to hear him, as a black man, say, and let the chips fall where they may. Look, Donald Trump can say what the hell he want to say. He can do what the hell he want to do. And then he can give you some alternative facts or some fake truths. And it's acceptable. That's because we're trapped in the society that kidnapped us, destroyed our history, destroyed who we are, and caters more so to the black women, not to hurt y'all feelings, because black women are more in line with what they are. Black women get most of the degrees in school now. They've adopted and accepted the program and said, hey, this is great. We can make some money, but it doesn't move us as far as a group. Then you get a lot of splinters, and then they teach the kids the same way. But they teach the daughters one way, and then they teach the sons another way. The sons are being coddled. When the father's around, the son will not be coddled. He will have more masculine traits. A lot of the stuff that goes on in the street is based upon his emotional side. He's missing something. And that's knowing how to behave like a man, but he thinks he's being a man because he's out here in the street and he's pumping his chest and talking loud and getting emotional. But women tend to be more emotional than men. So he's out here thinking he's acting like a man from an emotional standpoint. He's not trying to reason. Not to knock on women. Sometimes y'all not trying to reason. Y'all just trying to argue. And this is indoctrinated into the young man. But he doesn't realize he's being indoctrinated with feminine qualities. That's why a lot of the mothers start looking for the fathers when the boy is 12, 13, somewhere around there, because I can't handle him. The testosterone in his system is building up, and I don't know how to quell that. So he takes to the street and he's looking for direction. Farrakhan said it best, the streets is an institution just like everything else is an institution. But in the streets, the teachers are criminals, gangbangers, men who have it hard in society, who are trying to survive, to live in a society that has said, you're a felon, you're a criminal, there's nothing for you here in this country except jail, because we would love to see you there, because then we can make money off you. Takes more to keep one man in jail than it would take to send him to college for 4 years. Corporations making all this money off all the product in jail. You don't think that's part of the system? You don't think that's a mechanism built into this culture to lock us down? 65% of black men in jail, that's an army. You got to start thinking. Don't watch the Donald Trump show. Don't watch the distraction show. Look at what's actually going on here. He's doing all this with his hands, and then he's behind his back shuffling. He says he knows the rules of America, and he follows them. And he benefits from his white upbringing, his you're in control bringing. You're rich. You don't think like these poor people. That's what rich people teach their kids. You're rich. One day I'm in a bookstore and I look around and I'm like, what the hell is this? Basic Skills Caucasian American Workbook. It's a real book. I saw it. I picked it up. And it basically was a book. It was kind of describing how it is to be white in America, how life is in America for white people. as long as they stick with the program and they don't jump out and speak up for you or you or you. It's basically how you play the game. I never feel bad when I see a white bum. I don't. Am I a racist? Nope. I know he's been afforded every opportunity that I haven't. And half of them that you see out there have 2 or 3 degrees. Just don't want to listen to their rich parents. So no, I don't feel sorry for white people that are not making it. Because guess what? They don't feel sorry for you. We so worried about who don't like us. We don't like ourselves. Malcolm said, who taught you to hate yourself? When you got so much evilness in your heart that this situation now causes us to have to kill each other. My grandmother always told me it's not the place, it's the people. And when we moved to 562 East 40th Street, we had to prove that principle. Clean up the building. Stop allowing people to do what the hell they want to do in the building. You're not going to sell drugs here. You're not going to pee in the stairwell. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do this. And that's what it takes to solve the issue that we have. You're not going to sell that shit in this neighborhood no more. We calling the police. Get your ass off that corner. Get the hell out my house. See, these are the things that start to break down all that bull crap. Because we all can use that excuse, I was poor and didn't have this and didn't have this. Then you got to get up, get out, and get something, right? But don't get something by tearing down other people, by destroying your own people, by destroying your own neighborhood. If we out here saying Black Lives Matter, then they should matter on a whole different level. And if we got them brothers, we ain't trying to throw anybody into the pit. But we trying to grow. We trying to build, right? We got to take responsibility for where you live. A lot of these people that out here doing this shit is your sons and your daughters, and you accepting it. My grandparents didn't play that crap. I remember a day my cousin, he was trying to do a little selling and hid a package in the house, and my grandmother found the package and she flushed it down the toilet. And when he came to her about it, she was like, I told you. You don't bring that shit in my house. You can get the hell out. But she didn't kick him out that time. She just like, this is the way it is. That's the way we were raised. We were raised, you got more time than money. So if you go out here and do some dumb stuff, see you later. One time my cousin, he called and he said, Dad, they're trying to give me 8 years. I can't do that much time. My Uncle Charlie said, well, do as much as you can, son. There were men in our lives, and most of the time it may not have been a lot of men in the house, but there were men in the neighborhood. Nobody ever told me to go do this or go do that. So it's all these different forces around that basically kept us out of a lot of stuff. That's what we got to get back to. We got to get back to not listening or depending on what these people are saying, because they can make it right anytime they wanted to. Oh, Donald Trump, you want to help HBCUs? Let the government fund our education for 150 years. Keep us out of debt. Give us an opportunity to build the way we want to build. But that would mean now you competing with us. You're going to go to school, get free education. We're still going to pay for our education. How does that help us? It's not about helping you. You said you want to do something to help black people. You coming in with the feds ain't going to help. Maybe if you decide to put some money into some institutions and resources in the community, then maybe that'll work. Unfortunately, we got to get a lot of the influence out of the community that don't need to be there. A lot of the stores that are not owned by us don't need to be in our community. You go to a lot of other communities, you're not going to see that crap. So why do we allow people to tell us, well, that's wrong? Why don't we have a black town? You got a Chinatown, you got a Polish neighborhood, you got Little Italy, you got Greek town. Everybody get to have a town and run it their way with their people, but when you do something, you's a racist. The craziest thing I've been hearing this last election, Obama brought racism into America because he decided to talk about it. And the one thing we don't want to do is talk about racism with you Negroes. Because you're not going to understand. We don't give a fuck. We going to pretend and BS with you and all that. Because our neighborhoods are good. Why do I have to worry about what's going on in your neighborhood? I'm good over here in my neighborhood. That's y'all. A white man at work told me, well, what's with all the killing in you guys' neighborhoods? I said, what's with the killings in your neighborhood? Kind of shocked him because he was like, man, there's no killings in my neighborhood. Okay, I mean, we may have drug problems and things like that, but we're in control, so that doesn't mean anything. My neighborhood's still better than yours. If my neighborhood's a trailer park, it's still better than your neighborhood because there's no shooting and killing going on because the system protects us. The system does not protect you as a black man. I don't care how much money you make. You're going to be looked at as a criminal. Remember Louis Gates going into he's a Harvard professor, going into his own house in his neighborhood that he's lived in, that he jogs around, and he was still accosted by the police. Driving while black. You can't shed this skin with money. We can't Donald Trump can't fix the problem. Bringing in the feds doesn't fix the problem. Reparations has to be given to black people and let us make our own way. So the discussion we need to be having is, how do we do this? How do we start establishing these community centers and outreach programs to reach out to these brothers that's out here doing this? We ain't trying to put you in jail, but we definitely trying to move you to the next level. And you probably ain't going to be making as much money as you was out there slanging. But guess what? You won't be destroying your people. And that means you're finally taking pride in who you are and what you could be. Let's start loving each other. Love, peace, soul. We out of here.
Supreme being. And that all prophets came from that God. The Christians refer to him, I think, as Christ. The Jews call him Jehovah. Muslims know that his name is Allah. And Islam, in its essence, means complete submission to God. Any Jew that practices his religion rightly is practicing the Muslim religion. Anyone who practices the teachings of Jesus is practicing the Muslim religion. I think that white people are so guilty, knowing what they've done to black people, that they feel if the deeds were reversed, they would hate the black man if he had done the same thing to them. So it's actually, it reflects a guilt complex on the part of whites when they ask us